Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today we're going to talk about Bitcoin and just put out a new fair warning to people, mainly people that are new to the market, not people that have been here for a long time. So if you guys like the content, please subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. So the first thing I want to say is this video, again, is not meant for people who have been here a long time unless they just need to hear it for the 20,000th time. It's meant for new people to the market that are pouring their life savings into Bitcoin right now. So this is who the video is for. This is not financial advice. It does not mean you should go market sell your Bitcoin at this point. Nothing like that. I just want people to have the right outlook on Bitcoin. So one of the things I notice when we get into these bubble, I wouldn't consider this a macro bubble by any means, but whenever we get overextended in the short term, like we did back in say 2019, you tend to have a lot of people coming out saying, if you buy Bitcoin today, then you'll be a millionaire next year, all sorts of stuff like that, and then not just saying, okay, if you buy $900,000 worth of Bitcoin today, you'll be a million next year because it goes up like 10% or something. No, they're implying that if you buy a small amount of Bitcoin, then you'll be like a millionaire next year. And is this possible? Of course, it's possible. But in my opinion, it's a very deterministic way to look at it, and it can encourage people to get overexposed to the market, just like they did in 2017, just like maybe they did in 2019. So I think it's always good to be cautiously optimistic. We recognize that Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin, will likely trend up over the next few years, but the idea that it has to go to $300,000 in 12 months, in my opinion, is just a little bit absurd. And we've looked at diminishing returns a lot in Bitcoin. Obviously, the debate about lengthening cycles or 4-year cycles is going to be up for debate for a while. I know some of you guys have already made up your mind on that, but regardless of the cycle length, it is fairly obvious, in my opinion, that the ROI is diminishing. Now, when we talk about short-term moves, we must first recognize that no one really knows what's going to happen in the short term. No one really knows what's going to happen tomorrow or the next day or next week. For all I know, Bitcoin could rally to 20K tomorrow. It could rally to 20K next week, go up to 25K, go to 30K before it has a significant correction. So we need to recognize that is certainly a possibility. However, it's very deterministic way to think that it has to do that in the short term, because we also must recognize that even in bull markets there are corrections to the downside. And the reason why that's important is because when you get into this mania mindset where things just go up, everyone seems like they're a genius during a bull market because they just say buy, 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 and the dips get eaten up quickly. But then at some point you'll wake up again and you'll be 20% down. We put out a video on this a week or two ago, and we were actually at about the same price. We were at about 18.9K. Right now we're at 18.7. And a few hours after I posted the video, the price of Bitcoin dumped down to 16.1K. And I can assure you, I in no way take credit for predicting such a short-term move, because I admit I don't know what will happen in the next few hours. So it was a coincidence. It was more so meant to say, okay, we know there will be a correction coming at some point in the next few weeks. We just don't know exactly when it will be. And you can argue that a move from 18.9 down to 16.1 is hardly a correction when it was bought up very quickly, and then we went to a higher local top. And even on some exchanges, we went to a global top. So with that in mind, we need to take a step back and still realize that a significant drop is always on the cards, okay? And again, I know these types of videos will tend to solicit comments from people, especially if the price were to go up from here in the short term. They'll solicit comments saying, okay, look at you, you said it was going to go down, and it went up. Again, we're not saying in the short term, because I really don't know what's going to happen in the short term. I look at macro moves in the market, and we look at these longer time frames and generally identify smart money coming into the market. Right, smart money coming in. Up here, dumb money pouring into the market, so a huge transfer of wealth. And in this zone, in this intermediate zone, I would say it's more no man's land. And I don't necessarily consider it to be smart money, but I don't necessarily consider it to be, the dumbest money in the world, because with the idea that we will trend up over the next few years, you can always, of course, argue that buying Bitcoin at 18, 19K is still a decent investment. The problem is that a lot of people in the crypto scene, when they come into the market, they're coming in because of what they read on the news. They're coming in because of FOMO, because they think that the price of Bitcoin is about to explode, to $300,000 in 12 months. And if that doesn't happen, then that can be a problem for them. And so I'm just speaking to these people. It's really important to be intelligent when it comes to this type of stuff, and to not just FOMO into the market because someone on Twitter, someone on YouTube told you that Bitcoin was going to $300,000. Because if you were here in 2017, there were just as many, well, maybe not just as many people because it wasn't as known back then, but in 2017, there were a ton of people saying that it was going to go to 100K then, and it didn't. And then the narrative quickly changes, and then those types of tweets go away, and then the tweets change from, the narrative of the tweets will then change from it's going to 100K or it's going to 300K in 6 months or whatever it is, and they'll change to be whenever there's a dip, they'll just say who bought the dip or who bought up the cheap Bitcoin, and then the timeline will just change. So I just want people to remain cautiously optimistic, right? I am a bull on Bitcoin. I am macro bullish. Someone, in fact, on my YouTube channel recently posted a comment, and they said, I don't know if Ben's the most bullish bear or the most bearish bull. But I think that's kind of a good way to look at it, right? You don't necessarily always want to assume that the price has to go up monotonically and then tell people that it has to do that, because there will come a day when it won't. And the people that are overexposed to the market at that time might pay the price, because if you can't stay liquid, or if you can't, basically the point is if you're not if you get liquidated, this is what I'm trying to say. If you get liquidated, or you liquidate your holdings because you have to pay rent and you're overexposed to the market, then that can be a problem. And so it's all about coming at this from a risk-adjusted returns point of view, and that's what we talk about on the channel, right? We talk about smart money, dumb money, and the kind of the money in between. And right now, I would say we're the money in between, because there's definitely a decent probability that we continue to trend up over the next few weeks. I mean, obviously, momentum is a very powerful force. We've gone up for about 2 months from 10K all the way up to knocking on the door of 20K. Momentum is a powerful force, and it, of course, is a possibility that Bitcoin could trend higher in the short term before having a correction. However, with that said, it doesn't mean that even if it were to go above 20K, it doesn't mean that it can't immediately drop back down below it. If it went to 25K, it doesn't mean it can't go back down to 16K or anything like that. In fact, during the last market cycle, we had those types of moves where we went above the prior all-time high back over here, and then we dipped back down below it. So if history is any indication, we know that type of stuff can happen, right? We can have moves above the prior local top or global top at the time, and then a move back down. And as long as you have the right mindset, and that it's a marathon, not a sprint, then I think you're fine. If you recognize that there is a decent probability that there is a significant correction at some point in the next few weeks, then you're fine, as long as that doesn't significantly affect, your own financial situation, right? Again, this is not financial advice. I just want people to be pragmatic about the markets, because when we made videos for the last year and a half, when we were mostly in this range here, it was all fun and games, because for me it was just like, this is smart money pouring into Bitcoin. This is smart money pouring into Bitcoin. This is smart money pouring into Bitcoin. Even when we were at 8K, it was smart money, even though we dipped down to 3,800 a month later. In my opinion, that was all smart money pouring into Bitcoin. But again, we're in that region now where I would say, okay, it's not necessarily the smartest money coming into the market right now. So with that said, for me personally, I'm not buying Bitcoin. And even if Bitcoin were, I do own a lot of Bitcoin, don't get me wrong, but even if Bitcoin were to go to 25K next month, I still would not regret buying today or we're buying any more of it today, because again, it's, in my opinion, it's not about your return, it's about your risk adjusted return. And you're paying a lot of units of you're adding a lot of units of risk here buying Bitcoin near the local top because we moved up to it so quickly. So if you do see a return, like if you are buying Bitcoin at like 19.5, at 18.9, and you do see a nice return in the short term, then congratulations, right? You paid for that return with a lot of units of risk, right? You took a lot of risk on to yield that type of return. However, for the people that were buying it down here, the smart money, they're not taking as much of a risk because they can afford a drop to the bull market support band at any time, right? They can afford this, and it wouldn't really significantly affect anything that they're doing. Because, if they're already up 3 or 4x and they see a 20 to 30% correction, they might think, okay, I'm fine, right? I'm fine. This is fine. However, if you're the person buying up here and then you do see it come down in the short term, right? If it does come down in the short term, then that might be a problem because you might feel like you get trapped. Because if you need your money, right? If you put your rent money or you put some other type of money into Bitcoin at the local top, and then it does come back down, and it takes longer than a couple days, like it did last time, right? If it takes longer than a couple days to come back up, then you could find yourself in a tricky situation. So again, this channel, we have nothing to do with short-term moves, right? I cannot tell you what's going to happen in the short term. If Bitcoin dumps to 14K in the short term or 16K, I take no credit for it. If it goes to 25K, I take no credit for it, right? I don't take any credit for short-term moves because I think it's a random walk. As I said before, geometric bounty in motion. It's not something we can realistically hope to predict in a reliable manner. So with that said, we need to just sometimes take a step back, right? I mean, we can see the general move of the market, right? I mean, we kind of came up right here, and then we've bounced back up. Maybe you could argue that this move was a nice just move like this, and we just had this natural, Bitcoin fluctuation because it doesn't do anything normal, right, or anything methodical, right? It has its own path that it wants to take, but is it out of the realm of possibility that it goes above 20K and continues higher? No, it's not. However, at the same time, is it out of the realm of possibility that it dips back down and then comes back up later, right? Is that out of the realm of possibility? No, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Therefore, if there's a universe where that could theoretically happen and you're overexposed to the market and you couldn't handle something like that, then you just need to consider that at this particular point, right? You just need to consider that. And again, I'm not saying that you should go liquidate your Bitcoin. I'm not saying you should go market sell your Bitcoin. I'm just saying you should take a more responsible approach to the market, and also recognize that whenever we are in the regression band or whenever the risk levels are lower, that recognize it for the opportunity that it is, right? I mean, when we're at the 20-week moving average, which again, as we know, historically speaking, is our bull market support. As I showed in that other video, we've had moves, that's the date when, as I showed in the other video, we've had 20% drops to the 20-week, we've had 30% drops to the 20-week, we've had 40% drops to the 20-week, even in a bull market. So with that in mind, we know that the 20-week moving average still today it's higher than it was the last time I made a video on it. It's now at 12.9. If Bitcoin were to drop from here to 12.9, that would be a 28% drop. If that happens, is the Bitcoin bull market over? No. As long as we hold the 20-week moving average, in my opinion, of course, and I understand that people might interpret the data differently, but in my opinion, as long as we hold the 20-week moving average, the integrity of the bull market remains intact. That might seem counterintuitive because a $13,000 Bitcoin might seem bearish to a lot of people, but it's easy to lose track of how far we've come in a short period of time, right? It's easy to lose track, and we can easily get into the mindset of that it has to just continue to go up and up and up because of institutional money or whatever it is, right? But when we dipped down to 16.1, where we dropped $2,500 or something, $2,800, whatever it was, in the span of 1 to 2 hours, you see how quickly market sentiment can change, You see how quickly it can change, and then it bounced back up. So you can see how quickly it can change back up. So market sentiment can change constantly. And when we do have a correction to the 20-week, remember, the bull market is not necessarily over. It just means that the bulls need to come out and hold the line like they did endlessly throughout the last market cycle, right? They did it here. The bulls came out and held the line. They did it here. Did it here. Right here again, and here. And then where they failed to hold the line was up here, and then it was the bad news bears, right? So these were, as I said before, these were little koala bears coming out, pushing the price down. These are grizzly bears and polar bears coming out, and getting angry about just how high this has gone up, because the further you push it up, the further you push this price up, right, as we continue to go parabolic, the more people that were the smart money, right, during the last cycle, the more people that were the smart money down here, it's going to be really hard for these guys not to sell, because if you were buying Bitcoin at $200 during the last market cycle and then you sold it at 20K, you're up 100x. So you have to imagine, as you continue to go up and up and up, the sell pressure consistently increases and increases and increases. And at the same time, the number of people telling you that it's going to go up forever and ever, that also increases a lot, right? Because back then, we saw all sorts of charts that were predicting something like this, right? Up to 100K. Even when we dipped back down, a lot of people were saying, okay, we're going to come back up and then go to 100K, something like that. So again, it's all fun and games until you wake up and your portfolio is down 20%, right? It's all fun and games until then, and then you take a look back and you're like, okay, why did I listen to this person? Now, again, I just want to state for the 17th time that this video is not meant to predict a short-term move. It is simply not meant to predict that. I just simply do not know what will happen in the short term. If we push higher than 20K, I'm right there with you guys. I have a ton of Bitcoin. I'm ready to go, but I also recognize the risk associated with it. And if it were to come back down, I'm not overexposed in the market. One thing that I think sometimes can be fun to do is to plot the price of Bitcoin, but on an inverted scale, right? And you might say it can sometimes give you a different view of the market, right? You can look at this one and see, when we first hit this level, and then the price dropped a lot and then came back down. We tested it for a while and then broke through. Here again in 2013, we came down to it, back up, and then we tested it a while and then broke through. And then here again, we just got to testing it. Okay, so there's a good chance, there's definitely a good chance we can break through. But if you look last cycle, we did break. We first came to it, and then after coming to it, having a wick to it, we did have a pretty significant correction. And that correction, by the way, did take us to the 20-week moving average, about a 36% correction. If you look at it on this chart, it might make a little bit more sense. So let's draw the price range from where was it? It was right here. So this wick right here, all the way down, you can see about a 36% correction or so. Maybe I can zoom in so you guys can see it a little bit better, rather than you having to squint your eyes, especially if you're on mobile. But we had a wick up to that point, and then we dropped all the way down about 36%. And you guys know where we dropped, right? We dropped right to the Bitcoin bull market support. Then we came above the prior all-time high. Okay, so this was significant. We came above it by a pretty significant amount, right? I mean, we actually rallied above it by about 15%. But even in that situation, we still came back down to the 20-week. Okay, and then we continued on later. So history obviously is no guaranteed indication of future returns, future results, anything like that. But sometimes it's good to take a step back and look at things in a slightly different way and recognize that, yeah, we could push through it, right? We could push through it, but if not pushing through it would be detrimental to you, then just take that into consideration. Again, not financial advice, just more or less a Bitcoin pep talk for someone out there who needs to hear it. I understand that most people that view my channel have probably been around here for a while, but given the surge in, say, YouTube subscriptions that I've had recently, I also recognize there's a lot of new people in the market, and I think if you are new, we welcome you to the space. It's a very exciting time to be learning about Bitcoin, especially in lieu of what we would expect to happen over the next few years. However, if you're in it for the short-term gain, just recognize what the risks are. Yes, I've repeated myself 13,000 times in the video. I'm sure someone will comment on it, and that's fine. But I just want to hammer home the point that there are risks involved in buying Bitcoin when it's up 100% in 2 months. Does it mean it can't go up higher? No, it does not. It just means there's a lot of risks involved, and smart money, in my opinion, is not buying at this point. Even if we go to 25K next month, I don't think this is smart money buying. Because dumb money can propel the price, right? And if you look over here, looking at, say, the last cycle, if back at this point, you can't say that this is smart money buying. It's just a lot of dumb money pouring in, and this is dumb money, and then it just gets dumber money as you go up. But eventually you get to that final point where the sell pressure from the guys who bought in down here is too great for the new buyers to compensate for it, because they're basically selling at 100x from where they bought it, a lot of their Bitcoin, and then the sell pressure just takes over, and you just can't recover in the short term, and then you go through an extended bear market. So I don't think that we're going to go through an extended bear market. I just want people to be a little bit more pragmatic about the markets, and not just treat it as something that has to go up every single day, every single week, forever, because it simply won't. Remember, the 20-week moving average is where we want to hold the line. That's where we would maintain the integrity of the bull market. Keep it in the back of your head. It might take us another several weeks to test it, but we will test it, I think, at some point in the not-so-distant future. So, again, if you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you're here for the journey. This journey should be a long one. I think there's a lot of money to be made, but it will be a roller coaster ride, to say the least. Also, check out the Telegram channel, which you can find in the description below. And if you want access to the premium list, where we have weekly reports, weekly videos, an alerts Telegram channel, or a private Telegram chat room, a risk dashboard, and some of these trading view indicators, then you can check out the Black Friday deal in the description below. Okay, and that'll remain active for a little less than a week or so. So make sure you check that out, and you can lock in the lower rate. The price of Bitcoin right now is $18,812. We'll see what happens. We'll see if we can rally above 20K. If we can, I will be happy. I do own a significant amount of Bitcoin, but I'm also prepared in the event that that doesn't happen, and I'm not overexposed to the market. So again, just a fair warning. Take it for what you wish. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.